Thanks for starting your day with us. Ryan and Lisa, mornings on CFAX 1070.
Vaughn Palmer, columnist with Vancouver Sun, here to talk BC politics. We love chatting BC politics with Vaughn and getting him up on the line here. Sir, how you doing today?
Very good, Ryan. I hope you're well.
Doing very well, and very interested to see how sort of week one of the BC Conservatives under Kerry Lynne Findlay has been going. And I understand we got a new poll out right now, so maybe we should start there. What are the polls showing?
One of the big polling companies, Leger, went out. So Findlay was picked on a Saturday, May 30th, and Leger went out in the field June 1st and 2nd. So kind of preliminary, but what it found is what other pollsters have found, which is the NDP's having a bad year. So Leger had the NDP 6 points ahead when they polled in January. That lead was cut to 4 points over the Conservatives in April, and now they've got the NDP 4 points behind. So I think that reflects what's been a pretty bad year politically for the NDP. That was not a great session of the legislature. Having said that, the Conservatives 4 points ahead. Most of the people that were polled said they didn't have a pretty strong opinion about Kerry Lynne Findlay, the new leader. Some of them said they weren't even aware that she was the new leader. So it's very early. I guess that's what I'd say about that. When a new leader is picked, they try to define themselves, and of course the NDP tries to define them critically. So we're in that debate phase. I'd say the polls probably don't mean too much until we get to the fall and people start to firm up their opinions.
Yeah, it's funny with the new leader, Kerry Lynne Findlay, because on one hand, she does have quite the track record because she was there in the Stephen Harper government. She's had a big, big time there on the federal scene. But for whatever reason, I think a lot of, in the world of BC politics, she's still a bit of an unknown.
Yeah.
And because of that, I find sometimes you can kind of have a leader that you can, since if you don't know them, if they're not defined for you yet, you can kind of pour whatever hopes and dreams you had into that person. And you get that boost because of it.
Yeah, I think the other thing to remember, and I covered that convention, is that was a razor-thin victory.
Right, yeah.
I mean, the actual voting, so about 22,000 people voted, members of the Conservative Party, and the voting was weighted a bit to spread it around the province. But of the 22,000 votes that were cast, almost, Findlay finished 60 votes ahead of Elliott. So that's about as close as it gets. That's a gap of 0.2 of 1 percentage point. So her first big challenge is to unite that party. I mean, she deliberately divided the party, Ryan, by attacking the former Liberals and saying they're trying to take over the party, and it wasn't going to happen on her watch. So she wins by, as I said, a razor-thin margin. Her first big challenge is to get out there and unite the party.
And then she's also got this socially conservative label that the NDP are really trying to push on her. I mean, she's kind of put it on herself. We spoke to her last week, a couple of days after the win, and I even asked her about that. What do you feel about, your position there and, the NDP trying to define you as like a very, very right-wing, socially conservative person? Her response was that she doesn't like labels. So that's what she said. But how do you think?
Not that one.
Yeah. How do you think she will be defined?
Well, most of the governments that I've covered over 40 years, if they beat the NDP in an election, it was because they were center-right. They emphasized economics, taxes, better government services. They didn't push the social conservative thing too hard. So I think that's a challenge to show that, you're, as I said, that you're center-right, but you're not just right, especially on socially conservative issues. This tends to be a province that, can be pretty conservative on economic matters and taxes and growth, but not as socially conservative on issues like, think back to abortion or what we're teaching in the schools, issues like that. So I think, that's where her effort has to be to show that, she can appeal to a broad range of British Columbians, because I don't think the social conservatives all by themselves can elect a government in BC.
Well, a bit of a polling bump for the new leadership here with the BC Conservatives getting their new leader, but we'll see how that goes as we start to get further into this. Now, another thing that's happened in BC politics in the last few days that I wanted to touch on is a bit of controversy. Charges laid against an independent MLA, Jordan Keeley. Now, he, of course, was BC Conservative. He left I think there was rumor of him maybe trying to get back in now that we've got this new leader, right?
Hey, at that convention that I covered on the 30th, Jordan Keeley was there as an independent. He got up on the stage in his cowboy hat, standing right up there with Kerry Lynne Findlay, very happy with her, endorsed her, and Ryan, we were expecting that he was going to cross back into the Conservative camp and that he would be welcomed with open arms. Well, that was Saturday, and then, of course, during the week, he gets arrested and charged with sexual assault charge, serious stuff. He says he's innocent. He will fight the charge in court, and he's going to remain a member of the legislature, but the Conservatives very quickly came out with a statement saying he's an independent, he's not a member of our caucus, and he is not going to be a member of our caucus until these charges are dealt with.
Now, so that's where that end of it went. But what about just his role as an MLA facing criminal charges? What are the standards or the rules even around that? Because he's going to continue to sit. He's innocent until proven guilty. But what are the general kind of practices when an MLA faces this kind of thing?
In the past, it's been assumed that members who were entitled to the presumption of innocence, they would remain members. Sometimes they would leave their caucus and sit as independents. But, I mean, I'd point out that in the 1990s or in year 2000, former Premier Glenn Clark, who'd resigned and who was still an MLA, he was charged with breach of trust and fraud. Nobody said on his side said he should resign his seat. They didn't even kick him out of the caucus. He didn't run in the next election, and he was acquitted after the election. And I think in the past that's been the view, that a special prosecutor may lay charges and decide it's in the public interest that the evidence be aired in open court, but being charged doesn't mean you're going to get convicted, and so the idea in the past was you didn't resign their seat. But now I'd say, well, the Premier has led this, the Attorney General, they've both said that Keeley should resign his seat because of the seriousness of the charges involving violence. And they've said the same thing about Han Chan, who is another former Conservative MLA, who is charged with a domestic charge as well. So changing times might be it, or, maybe we go on with, if you want to get rid of your MLA because he's under a cloud, you could try to recall them, or you could leave it to the courts to deal with it, or you could wait for the next election. I don't know where the public's going to come down on this, but it's certainly a different debate than the one we had in the 1990s when Glenn Clark was charged.
It's never a dull day in BC politics. Talking about it with Vancouver Sun columnist Vaughn Palmer, covering the legislature, and I do recommend you check out his work in the Vancouver Sun. Always great takes on what's going on here in Victoria, in the provincial capital, but we've got to leave it there because it's time to get to the news. But thanks so much, Vaughn, for talking to us today.
Thanks, Ryan. Talk to you again.